Most people lose power before they even speak. You see it in small moments. They react too fast, they explain too much, they try to prove themselves to people who already decided not to understand them. But powerful people do something colder. They stay quiet, and slowly, silence changes the entire room. Most people think power looks loud. Machiavelli understood the opposite. Real power often looks calm, controlled, unreadable, because the moment people understand how to trigger your emotions, they understand how to control you. And most people never notice this happening. They think they are defending themselves, but what they are really doing is exposing themselves. Every emotional reaction gives information. Anger gives information. Defensiveness gives information. Over-explaining gives information. And manipulative people study that information carefully. They learn what hurts you, what controls you, what makes you panic, what makes you chase approval. That is why emotionally reactive people are easy to manipulate, not because they are weak, because they are visible. And visibility creates vulnerability. The dangerous person is different. They do not rush to react. They do not rush to defend themselves. They do not fight every misunderstanding. Sometimes they say nothing at all. And that silence creates pressure, because silence forces people to sit alone with their own thoughts. Most people cannot handle that. When you react emotionally, you remove uncertainty. People immediately understand where you stand, but silence creates confusion, and confusion is psychologically uncomfortable. Someone insults you, you stay calm. Now they do not know. Did it hurt you? Did you ignore it? Did you see through them? Your silence becomes heavier than words. That is why emotionally controlled people often intimidate others without trying. Not because they are aggressive, because they are difficult to read. And people fear what they cannot easily control. A manipulative person wants access to your emotions. That is how manipulation works. Behavior, reaction, control. They provoke you. You react emotionally. Now they guide the situation. But when you stop reacting the way they expect, something strange happens. They lose rhythm. Suddenly the control disappears, and many people become uncomfortable when they can no longer predict you. That discomfort reveals something important. A lot of human interaction is emotional testing. People test your patience, your insecurity, your confidence, your emotional stability, not always consciously. Sometimes they interrupt you repeatedly. Sometimes they mock you lightly. Sometimes they disrespect your boundaries in small ways. They are watching your reaction, because reactions reveal emotional structure. That is why silence is not passive. Sometimes silence is observation, and observation is power. If this mindset speaks to you, subscribe to Ilu Codex. This channel is not about loud motivation. It is about understanding the hidden psychology behind human behavior and learning how to move through it calmly. One of Machiavelli's coldest ideas was simple. People respect emotional control more than emotional honesty. That sounds harsh. But in reality, you already see this everywhere. The person who panics loses authority first. The person who begs to be understood loses leverage first. The person who desperately explains themselves usually reveals insecurity without realizing it. And over-explaining is one of the clearest psychological signals of emotional dependence, because confident people do not feel the need to convince everyone. They understand something important. Not everyone deserves access to their inner world. Most people explain too much because they fear being misunderstood. But powerful people understand this. Some people misunderstand you on purpose. No explanation will fix that. Read that again carefully. Some people already decided who you are before you spoke. Your long explanation will not change their mind. It only drains your energy. And manipulators know this. That is why some people keep pulling you into endless emotional conversations. They are not searching for truth. They are searching for emotional access. They want your frustration, your attention, your emotional reaction, because attention itself is power. And every time you emotionally chase someone's understanding, you hand them psychological importance. This is why strategic silence feels so uncomfortable at first. It forces you to stop performing emotionally. No defending, no proving, no emotional chasing, just calm detachment. And most people are not trained for that, especially in a world where everyone reacts instantly. One message, one comment, one insult, and people immediately lose emotional control. But emotionally disciplined people move differently. They pause, they observe, they decide whether the situation even deserves their energy. That pause changes everything, because emotional control is not about suppressing feelings, it is about controlling access to them. There is a difference. Weak emotional control says, "I must react." Strong emotional control says, "Not everyone deserves a reaction." That mindset alone changes your entire presence. People begin feeling it around you, not loudly, quietly. You stop looking emotionally available to manipulation, and that changes power dynamics immediately. Think about group situations. One person gets criticized and instantly becomes defensive. Another person hears the criticism, stays calm and barely reacts. Who appears more emotionally stable? Who appears more confident? Most people answer without realizing why, because calmness creates perceived control. Even silence changes status in social situations. The person speaking less often appears more grounded, not always, but often, because emotional restraint creates psychological weight. Meanwhile, constant emotional expression can slowly reduce perceived authority. That does not mean becoming emotionless. It means becoming intentional. Machiavelli never believed emotions were weakness. He believed uncontrolled emotions were weakness. There is a difference most people never learn, and once you understand this, your relationships begin changing, especially with manipulative people, because manipulators survive through emotional access. They need reactions. That is why some people become strangely frustrated when you stay calm. They expected emotional chaos. Instead, they found emotional distance. And distance removes control. You may have already experienced this. Someone kept provoking you constantly. Small comments, small disrespect, passive aggression. Then one day you stopped reacting, and suddenly their behavior changed. Not because they became kind, because the emotional reward disappeared. Your reaction was feeding the interaction. Your silence starved it. That is why ignoring someone can feel more powerful than fighting them. Not always, but often, because some battles continue only through emotional participation, and silence removes participation. Have you ever explained yourself to someone who already wanted to misunderstand you? Most people have, and most people regret it later because they realize something painful. Not every conflict deserves emotional investment. Some people are committed to misunderstanding you because it gives them emotional control. The more you defend yourself emotionally, the more power they feel. But when you calmly detach, the dynamic changes. You stop trying to control their opinion, and strangely, that often increases respect, because emotional independence changes how people perceive you. Neediness creates pressure. Calm detachment creates gravity. People feel the difference immediately. That is why emotionally unreadable people often seem powerful without trying. You cannot easily manipulate what you cannot emotionally predict, and prediction is how many people control others. They know what will offend you, what will trigger you, what will make you chase validation. But once those emotional buttons stop working, something changes. You become difficult to move emotionally. And emotionally difficult people are harder to dominate psychologically. This is where silence becomes dangerous. Not loud silence, controlled silence, the kind that comes from inner stability, because there are two kinds of silence. One comes from fear, the other comes from control. Fearful silence avoids conflict because it feels weak. Strategic silence observes conflict without losing emotional balance. They look similar from the outside, but internally they are completely different. And people can feel that difference. A calm person creates a strange psychological effect. Others begin revealing more around them. Why? Because calmness removes emotional noise. You begin noticing things reactive people miss. Tone changes, micro-disrespect, manipulation patterns, hidden intentions. When your emotions stop dominating your awareness, your observation becomes sharper. And observation is one of the most dangerous forms of social power, because most people are too emotionally busy to truly observe. They react first, think later, but calm people reverse the process. They observe first, then decide whether reacting is even necessary. That is emotional discipline, and emotional discipline protects energy. Most people lose massive amounts of energy trying to manage other people's opinions, trying to explain, trying to defend, trying to correct every misunderstanding. But peace begins when you realize something cold. Not everyone deserves clarification. Some people only deserve distance. That realization changes identity completely. You stop moving emotionally desperate. You stop trying to win every social battle. You stop feeling responsible for everyone's perception of you. And slowly, your presence changes. You become calmer, more selective, more difficult to emotionally disturb. Not because you stop caring about life, because you stopped giving random people emotional authority over your inner state. That is real emotional control. And once you experience it, reacting constantly starts feeling exhausting, because you finally understand something Machiavelli understood long ago. Powerful people do not waste energy proving themselves unnecessarily. They let behavior speak. They let silence speak. They let people reveal themselves over time. And the strongest position is often the quietest one. If you value calm power over loud attention, Illu Codex was built for that mindset, because the modern world rewards reaction. But reaction is cheap. Anyone can react. Very few people can remain emotionally disciplined under pressure. That is rare, and rare behavior always carries psychological weight. In the end, silence is not about pretending to be cold. It is about refusing to let every situation control your emotions. Weak minds react to everything. Strong minds choose carefully. One lives emotionally exposed. The other lives emotionally guarded. And that difference changes relationships, respect, manipulation, and power. So the next time someone tries to provoke you, remember this: not reacting is not weakness, not explaining is not surrender, and ignoring certain people is not avoidance. Sometimes it is the clearest sign that they no longer control your mind, because the strongest people are not the loudest in the room. They are the ones who no longer need the room's approval. And once people lose access to your emotions, their power over you disappears in silence.